Ladies and gentlemen, we're here to review
Udta
Punjab.
Wow.
Story about a drug abuse in the North Indian province of Punjab. Wow.
Yeah.
What a story.
I don't know where to start.
There's a lot
So
to kind
well
of
done, like-
unpack here.
Yeah,
Star-studded cast. Let's start there.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
many huge names.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know any of
Yeah,
them, but I know a lot of them are famous.
Shahid,
Alia Bhatt,
Shahid and Alia.
Shahid
Karina.
Kapoor,
That's the only
Alia
names I
Bhatt,
know.
Karina
Shahid,
Kapoor.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm not going to try.
What is
Manva
the-
Vij.
Yeah, so many good
Lot of big
actors
guys,
and
yeah.
actresses. I mean, and they all did so well in their roles. Like,
Yes,
they
yes.
all played the characters so well.
Yeah.
And like, it
You know,
was so
I
well
would think
done.
the movie is kind of like one of those epics where it
Mm-hmm.
is it's just three distinct storylines
Separated.
separated.
For some reason,
Yeah.
it reminded me of I think it's Place
Beyond the Pines.
Place Beyond
yeah,
the
I
Pines.
did same thing.
Yeah,
dude. That's wild.
And
We
of
both
course-
thought that.
Yeah, it's crazy, and of course a different setting,
Yep.
a different vibe,
Yep.
but like how all their stories kind of combined
Connect
near
to
the
one
end.
another.
They
Yep.
connected, and I love those kind of movies. Like
Yeah.
those are my kind of movies. Where
Yeah.
it's like,
Do the visual indicator of
Yeah.
those three
Yeah.
storylines.
and
as
it
well.
was
Yeah.
so
Split screen.
it was so natural how they intertwined them too, and like also
Yep.
like how the characters developed over time
Yeah.
too. Like with the cop, like
Yeah.
his character development was so like natural how he changed, like because he
Yeah.
saw his
son or
younger
brother, yeah.
younger brother, going through withdrawal, and then he's like, hey, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, and then
Yep.
he got
Started getting
into
second
the
thoughts.
he got second thoughts about it all, and then
Met up with the
really,
activist.
investigated what was truly going
Yeah.
on in the background. And like I just thought the way the movie progressed was really like well done.
Yeah.
And
And the way too how it's three distinct stories from three distinct angles of
Yep.
kind of that grimy underbelly, which is where
Yeah.
Alia's character was, and then there's the party scene, right?
Yeah.
The party it's all
singer,
fun,
like,
yeah.
oh, drugs are fun.
And you
yeah.
kind of don't really think about it, and then
The
there's also
celebrity angle.
and then there's the
yeah.
corruption angle inside the so it's kind of
Yeah.
identifying the people that are like, oh, it's fine, and then the people that are like secretly running it that are just
Yeah.
they're letting it go, and then how it affects people,
Yeah.
which is Alia's.
Yeah, and Alia's
portrayal.
was how she wasn't looking for drugs. It was like they forced her to take drugs, and
Yep.
then she got addicted that way.
Yep.
So like it showed all the different ways that drugs can get into your life and
Yeah,
affect you.
and how it's not good, right?
Yeah,
Like just
and how it's
yeah.
definitely a negative. Yeah, definitely a negative, and like
Yep.
how it has so many after effects too. It doesn't just affect you; it
Yep.
affects everyone around you.
Socioeconomically too, from
Yeah.
a province's
Yeah.
perspective, like a cultural perspective too.
Exactly. Yeah. Wow. This was really eye opening just to like see the effect of drugs in this in Punjab basically, and just see how it expands into other places too, and like how it's just crazy how how big of an effect drugs can have on people and the whole world basically. This was a really good movie, bringing that awareness to the topic.
Yeah, I actually thought while watching it, I was just thinking in the back of my mind, I was like, dang, this is a very like well put together movie.
Yeah.
Like there's sometimes when certain story beats don't quite line up, but I thought this movie had a very cool way of showing three different stories and then eventually intertwining.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
The-
that
was
artistically
unique.
it was
Very
pretty,
unique.
pretty
Yeah.
solid.
The director had a vision, and like he knew knew what he was doing. Like I mean,
Has he done?
I don't think we've seen.
Well done. I would like
think we've
to
seen
if
any
his
of
movies
other movies.
San Chiria
Amkara, 8.0,
Amkara,
like some of these other ones.
Ishkia. If there's another movie by this guy, guys,
He's
that
a
you think we
writer
would
for those.
like,
Yeah.
because I thought this was very well done.
Yeah.
It was just very entertaining.
Yeah, I think
enjoyable
it was better
to
done
watch.
technically than it was
Yeah.
story-wise, actually.
Oh really?
Yeah.
So I like
story-wise.
the individual performances,
Mhm.
but it was pretty straightforward, and you kind of knew what was happening.
Right.
Well, that doesn't make it a bad thing, though.
No,
I mean,
that's not
sometimes
necessarily bad, but there was nothing original in terms of how the story is portrayed. I think, like, technically,
I thought the 3 storylines was pretty unique.
I feel like I was seeing some things that I've seen already.
Sure.
In other pieces of entertainment as well. I think Alia did a really good job. I think as kind of the standout. And then of course Shahid's performance, he was really good as well. But I felt there was just something missing from kind of the engaging you the entire movie.
Really?
At least
I was fully engaged.
So that was kind of I was just like, okay, these story beats are occurring. There's pretty good performances, but then it wasn't gripping.
Right.
Really?
In my opinion. So it was just, and I
think I saw a different movie.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I can definitely see. I think it's obviously an anti-drug movie, and I know we're going to get a few comments saying that this is definitely a propaganda movie, and it is. Right, it's definitely an anti-drug.
Right. Well,
right.
Yeah.
Well, propaganda is a hard word for it. It's definitely an anti-drug movie. Yeah. I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing though. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's a good thing.
I would say that this is a good. Yeah,
I definitely. Well, we're definitely going to get people saying like, "Oh, this is such like, this movie is totally made."
We always get.
I don't think it was dealing with the dangerous drugs, which I think is just like universally like, oh my goodness,
agreed upon that this is not great for the socioeconomic climate and the crime that goes along with it.
And the crime, so I think that it's clear enough where it's just pretty much universally like, wow, this is a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I don't think there should be too much.
I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not. But
yeah,
it definitely did play off as kind of straightforward in that message. Which it's a very good message.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of like you kind of understood where it was going and how things were going to occur. Because I was even thinking somebody's going to die. I didn't know who it was, but I was thinking.
Did you think she was going to die? That was totally blindsided me. How would you have known that she would have died by the
Somebody was going to die.
Well, but like not from the kids doing. Like
basically, one of the main characters had to feel the effects to drive home. Right, exactly.
Sure.
In my opinion, I was waiting for that moment. Well, I didn't know exactly who. I thought maybe it was going to be Alia, which would have been even more, I guess, affecting.
Right.
Which would have been pretty sad because she had just done such a good job of portraying that kind of like the resistance to the desire to and so that was probably the most affecting performance in my opinion. But anyway, so that was my opinion.
Let us know what you guys thought in the comments below. What do you guys think of this movie?
It seems like most folks enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I like it. I like a movie that was I felt pretty entertained the whole time. Okay, very interesting graph we're looking at right now of the ratings.
There's
always some ones and there's always some tens.
Right.
But in this case, it's not a. It's
hit India and see what the. Okay.
Even more so
even a little higher.
It's kind
average,
of a consensus of an 8.
Yep.
I think I'm kind of in line with that.
I
felt
I agree.
I went along with the story. I could see how it could be maybe a simple story. I think that I like a story that is. I think a lot sometimes in these movies that are long like this, I think they try to bite off more than they can chew. A lot of times, like in that one movie we just saw, what's his name? No, that one was a disaster. No, with our boy, Gujani. I thought they bit off too much because they skipped a lot of parts that were
a little long at points.
Yeah, they skipped parts that I think they should have explored more, and then they drew out parts.
Yeah,
I thought
this was 2 hours and 28 minutes, which was that was reasonable time.
Yeah, and I thought, but I don't think they overcommitted. They told 3 different stories, and I think that they fully explored and didn't draw out too much from each of it.
In that ending, I thought it was just it was kind of a sudden ending, but it ended where it should have. It was like, hey, this is kind of. Right. This is where we're at. This is where they didn't drag it on, really.
And I also like that. There wasn't necessarily a clean resolve at the end too. I think that was purposeful to kind of show how it's not done yet, right? Like this world is not done yet.
I was caught in between. So when they were kind of trying to break into the facility, I was caught in between of I don't know what I'm supposed to feel, because you want to feel the emotion of breaking out and getting free of this well, not only the drugs themselves, but then their captivity. But it was really silly. Like it was just like and it was like, why am I like, it was just a silly.
Which part are you
like just
about?
when there's thwacking the guys and like
Yep.
it doesn't have any weight to it. So I was kind of like, okay, is this going
Wait, are
to
you
be
talking about the?
I think that's one of the. I think that's one of the tonal things of
tonal
Indian movies.
Yeah.
Yep. And we've talked about that in other movies too.
Right, because he's thwacking people with the field hockey stick, and it's like
the cricket.
Well, and these guys are just falling like it's really hard, and that's the tough thing, because there's a lot of silly movies that obviously logically don't make sense in terms of, well, that guy they'd have more security. They're just going out like But this one was strange because I think there was that weight in some areas of the movie.
Agreed.
Well, while it's kind of ignoring that seriousness at other times, and it's like.
Well, I thought
this was done a lot better than the way Animal did it, and trying to.
Well,
make
that was a
serious
straightforward. This is all silly. Yeah.
Well, I think this is a chronic thing that happens in a lot of Indian movies, and we've seen it in the comments too, where people just say, like, in India, the type of movie can be very dark and then very funny. Mm-hmm. We're all good, you know what I mean? In America, when us Americans watch it, there is a little bit of a.
It depends.
Of a jar factor where, wow, we just saw a woman get assaulted and then comedy right after. It's a little bit jarring, right? Even in Three Idiots, like when we first watched that movie, there's that scene where it's that very fun scene, and then that guy, offs himself, and that was rough. So I felt that in other movies more. I felt it a little bit in this movie for sure. It may be that we broke it up too. That helped in a way.
Yeah,
that it wasn't too
powerful. To be honest,
I
didn't feel that at all in this movie. I know some of the there was there's some really violent scenes and stuff, and the main singer guy was more like funny in certain scenes just because he was he was just really clumsy and stuff at points. Yeah. But like that did to me that did not take away from the seriousness.
I didn't take away from it.
So
either.
I guess that's a subjective thing where it's
I didn't feel that in this one.
But I do know what you're saying because I agree. In a lot of other movies, I get taken out of it.
Like that scene in 3, like you were saying after that. And that comedy song, suddenly it was
boom.
Like, oh, there's...
You kind of are like, whoa,
And that can work sometimes, and I think it really depends on how
Rabbit did it. Though.
Yeah, Jojo Rabbit is a prime example of that. But I think if tone for me is something that really affects my enjoyment of a movie.
Oh yeah.
And so if the tone is not necessarily what I expected in some ways, and it could be something like, oh man, you're so picky in terms of that experience. But I feel like this was the kind of the thing that, or the one element that was just like, oh, this is a bit off for me at least.
Yeah.
That's not to say this is a bad movie. And
I agree with you too.
Yeah, I just needed to set that.
I don't, but no, I totally. I understand where you're coming from. I didn't think it was as like comedic as, or like the tonal shifts weren't as great as what.
That's funny.
I didn't really notice it as much as you did.
See, that's Isaac on that end, and then I agree.
Yeah, I think Michael's probably a little bit.
Well, I agree.
Between
well, it's odd because I agree. I normally am very truth on that. For some reason, this movie it didn't affect me as much. It definitely did, and maybe because we legitimately because we took a break for a while. Maybe I forgot about a lot of.
If you watch the react, we're gonna have two different
because that part we ended on was honestly the worst.
It was really,
part.
Really tough.
So having skipped that was great. But yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So
anyway, well, should we give our reviews?
Honest
reviews with the boys.
And my phone has just died, so I can't even record it on.
Ben, no. Well, what would you have rated it? How about you go first?
Okay, so I'd probably do 3 out of 5.
Okay.
Not terrible by any means.
Yeah. All right.
Good performances. I did like some of the choices in terms of the cinematography and some editing choices.
Yep.
Yeah.
But story-wise, and execution.
Yeah.
Some of those.
I would give it a 3.5. I thought it was really good.
That's what I thought.
And I thought it was, I like this movie. This is a good movie.
Yeah, I give it a 4.
There we go.
Okay,
That
sure.
makes
There
so
we go.
much sense.
I know,
Honestly,
the way we've been talking about it, it's like we knew what our
absolutely.
ratings
You got
would
the
be.
higher
That was-
the-
when I said 3.5, I saw on the
did.
monitor Isaac just
Yeah,
smiles.
I'm like, oh, this is great.
I think we
So
all knew
I,
where that
I
was going.
really like this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it really brings awareness to the topic, and
It
I love
does,
how
yeah.
they did the 3 stories kind of intertwining at the end. And yeah, it's a very sad movie, but it was really well done.
Yeah.
throughout, I thought. For
Yeah,
sure,
I did
so.
too. Very good. Very good. Guys, let us know.
Yeah, so
Yeah, what
usually
do you
we're
think
all
of this
aligned.
movie?
I'd
Yeah,
say
we're
to
this
this
all-
one.
really, this
Yeah,
one's
we're-
like a little
This
bit
one is a
different.
little bit
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
Usually
Yeah,
we
yeah.
get the same rating.
But guys,
for
what
some
did you
reason.
think in the comments?
Yes,
Subscribe to
am
our
I,
Patreon too.
Yeah, are you more on my side or
Yeah, let
Isaac's
us.
side?
Oh
of it?
boy,
Yeah.
the
What do you
comments
guys
are gonna be
think?
wild.
And
Or
on-
are you just right in the middle like
and
Mike?
and actually
Yeah.
review and actually comment, guys, because it
Actually,
helps our
guys,
algorithm.
yeah.
Comment, like
And
have
put
discussion.
Put your star rating. Like put
Oh,
your
yeah.
3 out of 5.
What's
4
your
out of 5.
rating
What's your
on there?
rating?
You click the
Put
button.
that in
It
the
takes you
comments.
2 seconds.
Yeah,
That's all it does, and then hit subscribe while you're down there.
yeah, and like it.
While you're in the comments,
Yeah.
there's a subscribe button that just hovers. as
Yeah,
you go down.
while you go down.
I wish, yeah, that'd be good.
All right, boys.
Well,
We'll catch you in the
we'll
next
see
one,
you
I
in the
guess.
next
Nice.
video.